The draft opinion, in effect, states that there is no constitutional right to abortion services and would allow individual states to more heavily regulate or outright ban the procedure. That's another important part of this. This isn't saying making abortion illegal. It's just saying that making it illegal is not illegal anymore. All right, welcome back, everyone, to another edition of the IDRYB chat. How's everybody doing? I'm sure you've heard the news. If not, Roe V Wade has been overturned by the Supreme Court. And joining me to talk about that today is my friend Sanzik. Sorry, how you doing?
Christopher Sanzik. I go by Sanzik C on Twitter if you want to follow that.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me. I heard about this, but I've been working all day, so I don't actually know too many of the details. I heard it as they were talking about it on Timcast IRL in the car today, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. So
I did hear the same.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. Please do hit that subscribe button if it's your first time here, and even if it's your not and you haven't done it, what the hell are you doing? Diving in. So we got from NBC San Diego, leaked draft opinion suggests the Supreme Court may overturn Roe v. Wade. Draft document does not necessarily represent the court's final word on the matter, which is something I want to get into. Justices' opinions often change in big and small, in ways big and small in the drafting process. So, a draft opinion suggests the U.S. Supreme Court could be poised to overturn the landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade case that legalized abortion nationwide, according to a Politico report released Monday. Chief Justice John Roberts confirmed the authenticity of the draft Tuesday, and we have a little article here if you care to check all that out. I don't think we're going to go read through all that, but it is here. A decision to overrule Roe would likely lead to abortion bans in roughly half the states and could have huge ramifications for this year's elections. But it's unclear if the draft represents the court's final word on the matter. Opinions often change in big ways and small, as they said earlier. So that was the first thing that I wanted to get into. It's not very common for something this big to be leaked like that. The fact that it was leaked from Politico already has my my skeptical hippo eyes. Not really sure what's going on. What do you think about it?
I mean, there's two ways to see this. Either they're going to put the news out and then expect the right wing to go all in on it, but then fail, or they're going to leak it like someone jaded with the Politico, like their employee decided to do that early.
That's a good point. And then like they said, they're already. I guess it's true that there's definitely changes in things, in things that they're going to draft and the final draft. But first of all, it's convenient that something like this would leak before the midterms. Then when they say things like, they can make changes during the process, it almost seems like they're trying to get people to go out and protest, to have them be like, oh, just kidding, we're not really repealing it. I don't know. It
didn't surprise me. COVID did the same thing.
Exactly. Continuing. Whatever the outcome, the Politico report represents an extremely rare breach of the court's secretive deliberation process, and on a case of surpassing importance. Roe was egregiously wrong from the start, the draft opinion states. It was signed by Justice Samuel Alito, a member of the court's 6-3 conservative majority who was appointed by former President George W. Bush. The document was labeled first draft of the opinion of the court in a case challenging Mississippi's ban on abortion after 15 weeks in a case known as Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. The court is expected to rule on the case before its term ends in late June or early July. The draft opinion, in effect, states that there is no constitutional right to abortion services and would allow individual states to more heavily regulate or outright ban the procedure. That's another important part of this is, of course, this isn't saying making abortion illegal. It's just saying that making it illegal is not illegal anymore. So, we definitely know that states like New York and California are not going to ban it. But, the red states are most likely going to do so. And I'm not sure what the reaction is going to be.
Again, it's hard to parse because a few years ago I would have said this would have went over like nothing, and now everything's blown out of proportion so heavily that a Supreme Court case could very well lead to riots. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, it's taking much less.
It doesn't take anything nowadays. It takes
Yeah.
like one word.
And that's exactly why I'm, worried about like, the idea of people protesting, and why it seems convenient, even stated in the article, that their deliberation process is usually buttoned up. Yet somehow the biggest case that's been in front of the Supreme Court that average people care about, probably in the last 50 years, 70 years, something like that, and it just so happens to get leaked. I don't know. Little bit sketchy.
Certainly sketchy, but it wouldn't surprise me considering how much leaks have been happening lately on everything.
Yeah, I mean, the question is, what kind of leak are we talking about? Are we talking about somebody who, again, who doesn't want Roe v. Wade to be overturned, so they're leaking this information as to, bring about some change? Or, I don't know. I guess if somebody was in favor of this, they would want to keep it hush hush. So
they do also make up a lot of things.
yeah. Wouldn't that be great if this was just completely made up and they have no anything? No, this other article does say that it was verified. But moving on. We hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled, referencing the 1992 case Planned Parenthood versus Casey that affirmed Roe's findings of a constitutional right to abortion services, but allowed states to place some constraints on the practice. It is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Politico said only that it received a copy of a draft opinion from a person familiar with the court's proceedings in the Mississippi case, along with other details supporting the authenticity of the document. Sources, quote unquote, close to. Yeah. The draft opinion strongly suggests that when the justices met in private, shortly after arguments in the case on December 1st, at least 5 voted to overrule Roe and Casey, and Alito was assigned the task of writing the court's majority opinion. Votes and opinions in a case aren't final until a decision is announced, or in a change wrought by the posted on the court's website. The report came amid a legislative push to restrict abortion in several Republican-led states, Oklahoma being the most recent, even before the court issues its decision. Critics of those measures have said low-income women will disproportionately bear the burden of these new restrictions. I don't necessarily disagree with that being the case, but I don't know how relevant that is, because the argument, which nobody who is pro-choice seems to understand, is not just that, like, oh, Republicans want to control my body. Like, no. They believe, and it sounds like you as well believe, that after the moment of conception, you are dealing with a separate human. I'm personally not ready to say that. I have been convinced, I didn't previously believe, but I now accept that there is no rational place to draw the line that life begins except for conception. That's the point at which new DNA is created. But again, I just don't feel like the government has the right to be in a part of those decisions. But it makes a lot of sense that if you do believe it is a separate person, then abortion is no different than murder, and it's not just a cop out that people say. It's what people believe. I think that's a big thing that you're going to see a lot of just uninformed lefties talking about. Again, Republicans just want to control them. It's like, no, that's not what we're doing. Again, I am personally pro-choice. I don't think that getting an abortion is something that should be taken lightly. I think that if you are somebody who decides to do that, it's a heavy decision. And I don't think that, for the most part, people are just doing it willy-nilly. But again, a few years ago, the rhetoric was safe, legal, and rare. I think it was Ben Shapiro who responded to that. Well, if it's safe and legal, then why should it be rare? Which again is a good point. But sometimes it's just like these things aren't that simple, and there are cases, there are edge cases, and I don't think it's the government's place to get involved in that, especially when we're talking about life of the life of the mother being in danger, and cases of SA. I just think that we even bringing it to the states, I think it's a step in the right direction, because it will be, the people who want abortion to be legal will be able to live in a place where it's legal, and those who don't won't. But like, what do you think that will do for the actual, the culture war has made two very distinct lines in the sand, and there's two very distinct categories, even though people hold different political opinions. And now to make that a physical boundary, I'm a little worried about where that's going to go.
It kind of already exists. It's not like separation between communities. It's like one community is sharing completely opposing opinions. So the ones that want to leave will leave, and then everyone else who's there, they all hold the same opinion now. But like
Yeah.
the other way around, people moving to Texas and Florida, taking their politics with them and screwing up the people who were already there, it's gonna create a bunch of conflict.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty. It is not going to be pretty. That's for sure. So diving back into this, the leak jump-started the intense political reverberations that the High Court's ultimate decision was expected to have in the midterm election year. Already, politicians on both sides of the aisle were seizing on the report to fundraise and energize their supporters on either side of this hot-button issue. And APNORC, I don't know what that means. You know what that means?
Associated Press, maybe, but I don't know
Yes.
what the other part is.
Something like that. Well, it's a poll. A poll in December found that Democrats increasingly see protecting abortion rights as a high priority for the government. Other polling shows relatively few Americans want to see Roe overturned. In 2020, AP Votecast found that 69% of voters in the presidential election said the Supreme Court should leave Roe v. Wade decision as it is. Just 29% said the court should overturn the decision. In general, this AP polling finds a majority of the public favors abortion being legal in most or all cases. I think that's true.
I severely doubt that.
Why do you say that?
Because the red states don't want it. So if half the country doesn't want it, then that's more than the 29%.
I agree, but I think that there's a growing portion of that half. There's a growing section of the people that we would consider conservative or on the right wing or just right of center or whatever, that, like me, were previously liberals and are coming to the table from a more liberal standpoint. And again, I don't think that it should necessarily be illegal. I just don't personally feel like that's something that people should be going out and doing. So I don't know, but definitely you're right in the sense that it's split. And then of course when you get to these polls, you never know how they're framed, and it's like, are you in favor of killing babies? It's like, well, that's not really what
there
we're talking
also
about.
Might not be a lot of people responding to it that are
That's a
right
great
wing.
point. Yeah, small sample sizes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the getting back to what the actual conservative position on this is, it doesn't really matter what the polling says, right? If we all took a poll and polls said that we should let murderers and other abusers out of prison, that wouldn't make it right. So, that's the two sides of that coin. So, moving on. Still, when asked about abortion policy generally, Americans have nuanced attitudes on the issue, and many don't think that abortion should be possible after the first trimester, or that women shouldn't be able to obtain a legal abortion for any reason. That brings up the very important point about these back alley abortions. I do think that the occurrence of that kind of stuff is overblown, but for sure, you're going to have a lot of pregnant ladies falling downstairs and a lot of coat hangers being used for different things. And that's, just like with drug prohibition, people are still going to find a way to do what they want to do. And so I do think that the fact that we're not going from it being completely illegal to completely legal, I think throwing it to the states does, give a little bit of a buffer to that.
Well, the states are supposed to have the extra rights that the federal government does not.
Right.
So if you consider that a right, you would have to do that on a state by state basis based on the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have the safe, legal, and rare abortions in the red states, but like only for specific circumstances and not just generally, you're going to have to move to somewhere that does, or you're going to have to stay in the place where you either have abortion on demand 24/7 or you can't do it at all.
Yeah, I hopefully the way that the states divvy this up is not too much of a. It creates a situation where people who are looking to keep. I'm trying not to say the word too much. Keep this procedure legal, not too far from them, even if they live in a state where it is not legal. That I think is, if you live in Ohio, and they say it's illegal in Ohio, but that was a bad example. I don't know what the state is right next to Ohio, but in the next state over, it's legal.
Illinois, I guess.
Something like that. And the next state over, it's legal. Then you could drive over the border to the other state and do what you got to do. But if you're let's say in the Bible Belt, and there's nowhere around for you to go, I think that would make it more likely that we see some untoward behavior around this.
Yeah, but you have to run the risk assessment because there's like 1 million babies aborted per year.
Mm-hmm.
So how many babies to mothers would you consider as the ratio that is acceptable to allow abortion?
Right. And that's the equation you got to use. And again, it's fine not to agree on that number, to say for a lot of people on the right, they say 0, and that's a perfectly rational place to land. And I guess so is the idea that the whole my body my choice, and not as long as you are consistent in saying that you don't believe that the fetus is another person, it would be intellectually consistent to be like, no, this isn't a person, and I'm not this is my body, and it's it's my choice. But of course, again, that's not how the other side sees it. Diving back in, Alito said the court can't predict how the public might react and shouldn't try.
That's so true.
That's what we're here for. We cannot allow our decisions to be affected by any extraneous influences, such as concern about the public's reaction to our work, Alito wrote in the draft opinion, according to Politico. I think that's promising. That they, again, we were talking before about, this leak giving so much time before the final draft and the final decision is made, breeds the opportunity for people to say, okay, let's do something about this before it's too late. So I'm glad to hear that Alito is directly addressing that in the article.
Yeah.
People on both sides of the issue quickly gathered outside the Supreme Court, waving signs and chanting on a balmy spring night following the release of the Politico report. Reaction was swift from elected officials in Congress and across the country. In a joint statement from Congress's top 2 Democrats, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said, if the report is accurate and the Supreme Court is poised to inflict the greatest restriction of rights in the past 50 years, not just on all women, but all Americans.
Yeah, but all Americans includes the babies.
Ooh, good one. Absolutely. And even if that's not, even again, I'm trying to, represent all sides of the argument here. If you're on the conservative side, I can see you thinking that Roe v. Wade originally was the greatest restriction of rights. But overturning it isn't, again, it's not making abortion illegal. It's just giving, so sorry to interrupt your podcast experience. I just want to remind you, if you're enjoying what you're watching, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content. And if you really love it, there's some support links in the description. I would love if you could help out the channel. And back to the show. States the rights, and you have a right to vote. So that's just rhetoric, in my opinion.
Yeah, it generally matters what your opinion on where the life starts is, because if you think it starts at conception, then you would see this as a blatant abuse of human rights, because these people don't get the right to live.
Yeah, and the valid response to that, the whole, oh, it's just a clump of cells. Whether or not you agree with that, that's not a good argument, because that doesn't address the position. But there is a thought experiment, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but you wake up and you're connected to this person by tubes.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
They usually, there's something with a violin in it. Comment below and help us out with the exact thought experiment. But it basically says that in the same way that a baby or a fetus is reliant on the mother, this theoretical person, who we all agree is their own person, is connected to this other mother. And so it would still be immoral to force that person to sustain the original person. If you have a child that's going to die if you don't give them your kidney, you're not required to give them your kidney. I mean, you probably should if that's your kid and you're a match, but it falls in that same context where morally and ethically I do agree, but as a libertarian, I can't really get behind the government making these kinds of medical decisions. And I feel pretty consistent with that, given my stance on, the jab and how the mandates were unconstitutional. It's definitely a tough thing to grapple with, and there's no easy answer. But what makes it tougher, I think, is that there's no middle ground. You really either have to be saying that, no, this is murder, this is wrong, or, like the Ben Shapiro rebuttal saying if it's safe and it's legal, then why is it rare? And I guess the leftists took that and ran with it, because now they're like, yay, abortion. And that's not good for anything. That's not good for anyone. And I think when that's the landscape, the only rational thing to do is to do exactly what they did, or do exactly what they're saying they're going to do, and kick it back to the states.
Yeah, there's very few issues on which there's only two sides you can hold, but this is one of them.
Yeah,
because there's no other way to try to devil's advocate this. You have to choose one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Governor Kathy Hochul, I refuse to let my new granddaughter have to fight for the rights that generations have fought for and won, rights that she should be guaranteed. For anyone who needs access to care, our state will always welcome you with open arms. Sunshine will always be safe and accessible in New York. Ha! Called that. Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch said in a statement, "We will let the Supreme Court speak for itself and wait for the court's official opinion." But local officials were praising the draft, which means they're in favor of kicking it back to the states.
It's Mississippi. They don't deal with
that. Oh, yeah. This puts a decision-making back into the hands of the states, which is where it should have always been, said Mississippi State Representative Becky Curie. Congress should act too, though a bill that would write Roe's protections into federal law stalled in the Senate after passing the House last year with only Democratic votes.
Shocker.
Exactly. And arguments in December, all 6 conservative justices signaled that they would uphold the Mississippi law, and 5 asked questions that suggested that overruling Roe and Casey was a possibility. So even back in December, they were already talking about this. I've heard, I heard rumors of this way back when Trump was first elected. But
I heard it before that. I used to be in a Baptist community, so like this was always talked about. Like,
really?
People did not want this at all.
Yeah, definitely in conservative circles, it's that this has been something that's been a top priority. But because it's just been legal, then and the left is, what does this say about the left and the left versus the right, or the whatever tribal distinctions you want to make, the authoritarians versus the libertarians, whatever it is, the idea that this is something that one side has been fighting for 10 years, and only just now are they getting things done. Yet on the left, the meme made famous most recently by Elon Musk of the Overton window shifting way to the left. It says, yeah, the left has moved far to the left, but they could only have done that by organizing and convincing and getting people to believe what it is that they're putting out there. And so if it's bullshit, then what does that say about the right? Again, I'm not a it's the Republican Party in my eyes is just Democrat light. It's just slower.
It used to be. It's starting not to be with all the populists.
Yeah, it's definitely starting to, and that's why even a year ago, the word conservative, being considered a conservative, would be like no, that. But now it's just like, oh, okay, I'm not a 2015 conservative. I guess I'm just a 2020 conservative, and that's okay, because being a leftist at this point is not. It has that same effect. Leftist, no. Finishing this up here, only Chief Justice John Roberts seemed prepared to take the smaller step of upholding the 15-week ban, though that too would be a significant weakening of abortion rights. Until now, the court has allowed states to regulate but not ban abortion before the point of viability around 24 weeks. The court's 3 liberal justices seemed likely to be in dissent. It's impossible to know what efforts are taking place behind the scenes to influence any justice's vote. If Roberts is inclined to allow Roe to survive, he need only pick off one other conservative vote to deprive the court of a majority to overrule the abortion landmark. Which, again, that's a big red flag and hangs in the balance of only one person's decision. And I mean, I guess that's the nature of the Supreme Court to begin with. But what would you like to see happen, and what do you think is going to come from that?
Overturned, and then leave it down to the states to decide what they're going to do with that, because there's just no way you can mandate that federally if you're holding the same opinion that human rights are deserved by all, and that you're going to make a lot of things human rights after the fact. Like, you get what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, they're trying to make internet a human right, like water a human right. Like,
that's like the old that infrastructure bill. They're saying everything is infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly.
And that goes back to the same thing I'm always talking about: the semantic obfuscation, and trying to make this into something that it's not. It's already a difficult topic to muddy the waters with bad arguments, rhetorical arguments, propaganda. It's just it's expected, but it's certainly not good. I kind of think that with it going this far, not taking the ethics of the procedure itself, just looking at the rights of the government, it does seem like this will go through, and they will overturn this, barring some crazy people. I heard they're already getting ready to board places up, and
try and threaten their families and stuff.
Yep. So I don't know what exactly is going to happen. I just hope that we can start to get away from the vitriol that has come from the way that we've talked about politics over the last five or 10 years. I think Trump being in office was a big wake-up call for what can happen, both in terms of people who hated him understanding that, oh, somebody like that could be in office, and then on the other side seeing that, like, oh, just one person can make an entire section of the population literally insane. And
there's one person who did that more, though. George Floyd. He just completely made the left insane, to the point where they started defending rioting in cities and burning down Black-owned businesses that hold different political views.
Yeah, I mean, the only
absolutely insane.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The summer of love, but yeah, I'm hoping that with all of that having happened over the last few years and all of that bubbling up from the last decade, I'm hoping that this is going to be the first big thing where we expect worse than what it really is. I'm expecting you know, I have another article here about, you know, we don't have to go through the whole thing, but just from the New York Post about protests already erupting outside of the Supreme Court. That it was mentioned in the other article. Abortion is healthcare, which of course brings up another question about universal healthcare.
No. Just no.
I don't know. I guess that's a whole other conversation. But the big thing is, I think if we can figure out a way to make it about how, you know, the taxes that we're already paying being used better, I don't have an issue with universal healthcare on its face. I just don't think that it's something that's been presented in a way that A, would work, and B, would be accepted by you know, enough people.
I don't think it could work because every state is so different that there's no way to universalize it. There's a way to do it by state maybe, but not
Well,
by...
there could be a like we can have a universal baseline, much like the way Schmushmushin has been working in these states, where the states have they can't ban it, but they could put restrictions on it. In some places, you know, after like 6 weeks, you can't get the procedure. But I don't think on its face, the reason that it's not a good idea is because of the implementation and not because of the notion. That's
Yeah, it's a utopian idea, but I think human nature is just too volatile to do that. Nobody would fully have the support that would be needed for that because there's always going to be some contrarian.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So just we got a couple of pictures of the protesters here. Just
The message.
saying equality for all human beings, no matter their age. Right. So okay,
Their
I was gonna
age?
say. I was gonna say because down here it does say pro-life LGBTQ. So that may okay. So this person is pro-life, and this one's anti-abortion. Abortion is healthcare, as they were chanting. And again, is this the same? Oh, okay. That's a they purposely cut this picture like that to make it seem like this lady's like abortion now, telling women you won't be free without abortion is misogyny. What? I don't know what that means.
They're saying that people who would say on the left side that you won't be free without abortion is talking down to women who choose to have babies. Like they're taking the choice away from the woman who wants to have the baby for the cultural benefit of abortion.
Okay, I'll take your word for it because so we got Catholics support abortion access. So if Catholics support, I don't know how that works.
That is a very, very New York sounding idea.
Yep. So yeah, the people are very split on this, and it's already getting heated. It was already pretty hot. You know, again, like this used to be the argument: my body, my choice, and it was about being protected. And now it seems like people are trying to more so just use it as birth control, and that I'm not okay with. So I don't know. You know, we're gonna definitely follow this and see where this goes, what exactly happens with it. Let us know what you guys think about the decision or the draft for this decision. And definitely make sure you share this with your friends. Make sure they know what's going on because things are gonna be happening once this starts rolling. That snowball is gonna be moving.
Yeah, the right are actually fighting for something for once.
For once, exactly. So thank you guys for tuning in to another edition of the IDRYB chat. Thank you for Chris for joining me. And make sure you do hit those support links in the description. Always looking to help out the channel. But of course, it is free to comment, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But even if you don't want to do any of that stuff and you just want to sit at home and think about how great I am and how awesome this chat was, you can do that too. Any last words?
Not that I could say.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.